Hello and welcome to Love Revolution. I'm your host, Mia Sines. And this is rather exciting. I met this woman that you see sitting next to me a couple years ago. It's Claire Sierra. I met Claire when I had a self-love summit, and it was amazing. I love her work, and I just love who she is. And as a result, she is one of, and many of you already know this from reading her stuff, she is one of the writers at Bella Mia magazine. And her work is very rich and it's very nurturing, and you just feel like you're being guided by somebody who absolutely knows what they're talking about. So I love that about Claire. And also Claire, besides having sessions with people, she is the author of the Magdalene Path. And it's all about our getting in touch with our feminine soul. And this book was, would you call it, normally I don't talk to the guests until I bring them on, but let's do that. Would you call this channeling or just messages that came to you?
Well, it's kind of in the middle ground there. I think it's conscious channeling might be a way of saying it, because it's not like I leave my body. And oftentimes when I hear about channeling, that's what I kind of think of. But this is work that I received in meditation with Mary Magdalene. Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear more about that in a second. She's awesome. So, like always, remember to just relax and do your breathing before we get started, and before, I almost called you Mary. How strange is that? Oh my God, I guess I'm feeling her. That's wild. Okay, so, and we're talking about Mary Magdalene here, guys. I'm getting chills. Okay, so this is going to be powerful. All right, so grab your drinks, do your breathing, get your notepads and your pens and your colored pens so that you can take notes and enjoy yourself. And share with us. She's got lime in her water. Share with us what you have in yours, meaning hold it up to the camera right now. I've got my water, she has her lime, and enjoy. So hit pause if you have to. Clink. Hit pause if you have to, and then hit unpause when you're coming back. Great. So now it's time for me to pass this over to Claire Sierra. Oops, you can't see all my hand gestures. I'm like, Claire Sierra. So Claire, will you share with us, and then you're going to get into your teaching, but share with us what's on your mind about writing your book and everything else that you want to share with us before you get into your teaching segment.
Oh, great. Thanks, Mia. It's always so fun to get to play with you on these summits. I love it. I'm always really nervous. I'm always like, and then it always is really fun. So I reminded myself of that today as I was, going to my little. So I appreciate you and you putting this all together, because I think it's such a big theme. And I'll get into in a little moment about why I think it's such a big theme for women. What I was really thinking about before I came to this call today was just about how awakening the divine feminine is such a core theme for so many women today, and it's really such a developmental challenge, and it's an important challenge so that we can start to shift into self-love. And I think there's some really specific reasons why we have challenges in loving ourselves, why we can't love ourselves wholly and wholly until we see ourselves as divine and as worthy of love. So one of the things that I see is oftentimes there's ways in which we self-abandon. And self-love is really the opposite of self-abandonment. And when we see ourselves as divine, of course, we're going to do that. And when we see ourselves as divine, we're not self-abandoned. We're going to be more able to create space and spaciousness and nurturance for ourselves. See if there's anything else. And it's a process. I guess that's one thing that I am really tuned into, is it's a process. It's not like something, we've been very raised in this masculine culture, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it's like we've been raised to think of things as a process that's very linear, and I start here, and then I go to this end point, and then I'm done. And a lot of times I think as women we can get frustrated with ourselves, because we're like, oh my gosh, I'm here again. Like, how come I'm dealing with this again? Or, I'm never going to get good at this. And just to know that it's a process that we're all awakening in ourselves, and then we can support each other as we're doing it. And one of the things I love about you and all of the work that you do is it's really about bringing women together to support and love. Like we're really building each other up. We're really moving away from that paradigm where, well, if I had it, if she has it, it means I don't have it, and I want what she has, and so I better cut her down, whether that's her car or her shoes or her man or her castle on the hill or whatever it is. Just there's recognizing that there's enough to go around for everyone. So
that's awesome. Thank you for bringing that up. That's important.
Yeah. So today what I thought I would share with you is just some ideas and perspectives that can shift our awareness about how things have been. And like I was saying, why it's such a challenge to love and to self-love and self-care. And I use those two terms sort of intermingly with each other, but they're kind of similar but different. So, and I want to do that so that we can see our current reality a bit differently. So then we can really start to get what we're facing a little bit more clearly, and hopefully also bring some compassion and love to ourselves so that when we've fallen out of self-love with ourselves, we can bring ourselves back in. So I thought I'd share some teachings from my book, The Magdalene Path, which I'll show you, and some of the writings that I received from Mary Magdalene that really links the awakening of the divine feminine power with self-love and with self-care. Let's see what else. Then I thought we would do a practice that would open you up to your feminine soul. So go ahead and get your journal and your art supplies ready. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that. And we'll close with a sweet bit of Mary Magdalene's own. How does that sound?
We missed, I think, the part, it froze, where we're going to close with the bit about Mary Magdalene.
Okay.
So you were saying we're going to close with a sweet bit about Mary Magdalene and...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Yay.
So what I wanted to do is bring some of her wisdom and words and weave that in with some of the perspectives that I gained as a result of having this content of communication and context with her.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So lately I've been really thinking a lot about the Magdalene Path and really what are the core themes. I published the book in 2014, and so I've had some time teaching it, and I just want to say, Mia, if at any time it freezes again and you need me to back up, just give me some hand signals or something, and I can go back and cover some stuff. I know that my internet connection is not the most awesome one in the world, and I'm happy that things are going as well as they are so far.
Yay!
Yay! So, core themes. I'm not going to go into a whole long thing about this, but traditional religions have really suppressed and oppressed the feminine in favor of the masculine. And that's really impacted us not just religiously and spiritually, that's also really impacted social and political policies and structures, because for a long time, religion and politics were really the same thing. So that's created a really deep psychic damage that many women, I think, hold unconsciously. Of feeling unworthy, of feeling like not enough, of feeling invisible. And that's often for our own protection. And like I said, that's loving. So in order to compensate and create equality, we fought for our rights. But in doing so, it seems like we've really masculinized ourselves to prove ourselves worthy, to prove ourselves equal on the playing field with men. But in doing so, we've really sacrificed something. We've really created our lives out of balance, and many women are really feeling unfulfilled despite having and achieving what we thought we wanted. So it's this ironic thing, like we've achieved these great things, but now we're recognizing that we're feeling kind of lost or empty or burned out. And so that whole process is just really unsustainable. It's causing chronic anxiety, chronic illness, depression, burnout, a whole host of stuff. I don't need to go into that. You all know what that does. So what I see has really happened is that we've lost the core essence of who we are. That we're feminine beings and we have different style and different skills. And they've been really devalued. and they've been devalued. So as a result of them being devalued, we've ignored them or suppressed them. Because, you know, if we're told this isn't worthwhile, then we go, okay, that's not worthwhile, and let's just ignore that. And I think that devaluing of our own native feminine essence is really a reason that self-care is so challenging. I mean, women have really, for a long time, really sustained most of their value and worth by caring for others and, you know, through our beauty power, by what we could acquire in that kind of way. So, you know, caring for ourselves wasn't really, you know, that wasn't really on the menu. But what I really feel, and I think I'm not alone here, is that women are intrinsically divine beings. We're infinitely connected. We're very tapped into spirit, but we've lost our way. And now the planet and people really need us. So the divine feminine and the divine masculine both are really essential. It's not about tossing out the baby with the bathwater at all. If we're going to create a sacred world, we need to learn how to bring these two pieces within ourselves and in the world into balance. So it's really time to wake up to the power and fullness of who we really are. So the Magdalene path is really about reconnecting to the core essence of feminine soul, or the divine feminine, whatever you want. And there are practical skills to rebalance and awaken our feminine essence, so that we can connect to our own divine guidance, so that we can access our own inner wisdom, so that we can feel tuned in to the innate spirit that we really are, and so that we can know and live our purpose as agents of change, as part of this new earth that we're all interested in creating. So that's a little bit of the sort of the place that I come from with all of this, and I thought it would be interesting to read just a little tidbit here from the Magdalene Path. This is from a section called Great Loss. Let's see. Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure I wasn't doing this. Okay, so with the loss of the divine feminine, and this is Mary Magdalene speaking to me and to you as a part of a dialogue that I was having with her, just to set the context. With the loss of the divine feminine, the divine masculine has lost his partner consort. He lost his balance and his self in the divine deism of the day. This loss of partnership is reflected in how hyper-masculinized your culture has become. The qualities of this over-amped masculine, straight, rigid, planned, controlled, organized, have become the highlight of society. They became the great endpoint and the goal to be striving towards. Now we acknowledge that there is great value in those qualities, but understand they are not the only ones. Their companion, opposite on the spectrum, has been devalued and discounted. The feminine qualities of being spontaneous, organic, intuitive, unpredictable, emotional, eclectic, have all become denounced as disorganized, chaotic, and uncontrollable. They've been hailed as diseases to be cured from, and have been avoided at all costs at times. All manner of projects and programs are directed at eliminating the latter, the feminine, to elevate and worship the former, the masculine. As a result, there's hardly any room for these qualities to be valued and cultivated. Yet they're great creation tools, too, just a different form and different style. They're not better, not worse, they're just different. These feminine qualities come from a more grounded, embodied place of being, rather than intellect and doing. This capacity of the driving doer is seen as better than the quality of the receptive meanderer, which is intrinsically set up against the feminine way of being. There's more we could say here, but suffice to say that this awareness that the feminine creates differently in style and process is huge and not to be overlooked. Kind of fun. Okay, so let's see. Here we are. Gotta go back to me. Yeah. So what I've really come to understand is the way we can start to to self-love, self-nurture, self-care, what I call soul care. Because I think when we're really caring for ourselves deeply, we're ultimately really caring for our souls. And so to do that, we reawaken your feminine soul through practices that heal our weary mind and body and spirit. So that might be things like meditation, prayer, contemplative reading, soft, easy yoga practices, visualization, and then open divine connection with tools to access and support the guidance we need. Things like active imagination, dreaming, meditation, prayer, creative arts can all be used for that. And then the third step is to live a deeper purpose for yourself in the larger flourishing of life as we create or co-create the new earth that we've always longed for, but in some ways haven't really thought possible. So, so I had another piece I wanted to read for you that I thought related to all that. So these are just some different sort of bullet points that came out in the book. In this one particular afternoon where I didn't manage my time very well, and I just had a short time, and I was like, okay, just give me the goods here. What's something I can work with today? And Magdalene said to me, first, feed the feminine first. Cultivate feminine essence in all you do and be. Create a daily practice and engage it as a priority. Make time for soul with self-care and connection every day to draw in a stronger awareness and experience of feminine soul. Then she said, realize she's already within you. The feminine is alive. See, sometimes I think as women we can just really feel like lost and disconnected from our feminine selves. So she's really saying the feminine is alive within you. She's endured, dormant, and hidden for many generations. In your land, this awakening began in the 60s and 70s in the women's lib movement, but in fact actually started in the turn of the century as women engaged the right to vote. How absurd that half of the population did not have rights to give voice to government. And that seems impossible now, but there are still lands where women have little, if no, freedom. And so as the feminine fully awakens in a social and spiritual dimension, the divine partnership will be recognized in religious and cultural landscapes as well. So then 3, she says, know that women are God too. When you're awakening what you're awakening is the recognition of the absolutely inherent spiritual and soulful aspect of women. The group that's awakening now, I think that's us, is coming to the awareness that there is not a male God governing over all. That would be an extreme version of narcissism and grandiosity, to think that one gender would have more access to the spiritual dimension than another. But really, for generations and centuries, this was the official story. There was a time when the belief was that women had no soul, the purveyors of original sin and all, and with no connection with God, they needed access through men. And that's the ultimate power in patriarchy, because when one controls the inner dimension, the outer aligns quickly. I thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And so men are not the problem nor the solution. Males in your culture are just as controlled and negatively impacted by patriarchal conditioning as women. Their expression as spirit beings has been hugely limited to. They're in a tighter box than women, although holding the reins of power, which is slightly dangerous. And then she says, the uprising of feminine soul is a wave of creation and expression. Speak about this to all you see and know, and as you do, these ideas and concepts incubate and develop. It is the sacred exchange of the creative self in art, movement, dance, music, and wordplay that enables that to flow more. Start this shift in awareness. And later, things will emerge more clearly as you get deeper into that body of work. And then she says, the means becomes the end. As you express the sacredness of your feminine form, you will move with spirit and experiences of your own being, yourself as divine. Then you recognize the divine in all. Such is the ultimate goal, to recognize your godhood, your goddess self in physical form. You are all creatures of God, goddess, and it's time for your awakening to occur. But first, at least half the population needs to awaken, to acknowledge and experience a change in consciousness about the packaging that God comes in. This is a deep psychological shift, and a turn in the psyche is required. She goes on to say that this is a spiritual and social revolution. It comes from within. Begin to name, experience, and express the feminine essence as divine. This is still a radical act in many places, even in your environment. There are those who may resist and may look away. It's those who move towards you that should be engaged. Let others fall away without distaste or ill regard. They have other paths to follow. And finally, end the divine divorce. With the glorification of the feminine, the male god is reunited with his female goddess as partner, co-creator, or co-creatrix in consort. It's the time for the divine people and heal the land. So with that, I thought I would share with you a practice, Mia, that I think can really help do that. Would this be a good time to do that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So again, this is from the Magdalene Path. No surprise. And it's called Living from Being. And so what I've really noticed, earbuds, what I've really noticed is that women have a real strong desire to create with their own inner feminine, but we don't exactly know how to do that because we're so inundated with our cultural and societal and familial upbringing and habits around our masculine style and way of being, because we live in this culture that's very masculine. So we're really good at, if you want to do this thing, then it's over here, so then you reverse engineer it, and you set your plans and your milestones and your deadline dates, and we do that in big ways for big projects, and we do that in small ways. That starts to become how we live our day. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad idea. I mean, there's many things, including probably this telesummit or this video summit, that if they weren't really planned out on a calendar, they might not ever come to pass. But I wanted to share a practice that would sort of start to point us to a way to weave in a feminine way of being so that we could start to hold balance with the masculine and feminine, so that we're not like on autopilot with our masculine. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, cool. So, so the backstory is just how we undertake a project, or want to plan our day. How our primary process may be to begin to plan, organize, and control. Like straight out of the gate, where our eyes are open, we're immediately thinking about things we need to do and how we're going to do it, and like all the different logistics that need to get worked into place. Yet by being in the divine feminine energy field, you can start to let your project, day, or life unfold organically as if you're meandering down a path. Now, I'm not saying no organizing at all, but you can start to weave that in. By being in the flow of your life, resisting control and not forcing outcome, you'll watch your ideas and intentions develop right before your eyes, even without a conscious plan. Imagine that. And I would not want to put you on the spot, Mia, but I am sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. We've had conversations about that. How we can think it's going one way, but then we get an idea or something inside of it saying, I'm not sure about that. Do this instead, and then the other things happen. Well, we act like that's just magic because we just, or something like we tuned into our intuition and then synchronicity. And that's true, but there's also ways that we can kind of start to engineer that. We can start to create the ground so that that can happen.
Yes.
Okay, so the first step is really to just give yourself some time in the morning. And you can go ahead and do this right now as we're going through it. But I think that there's something really powerful when we start our day attending to ourselves and giving ourselves time for practices that support and sustain us. When we start off our day with rules and structure and discipline, we may get a lot done, but often it's at a cost to our own vitality and our own radiance and our own aliveness. And I think that by doing that, we also avoid isn't quite the right word, but we deny ourselves some of the juicier, richer connection that comes from our own feminine being. So just take a minute to think about a moment or two, just to think about what practices and activities really support and sustain you. And is there a way that you could take or give yourself, I would say, can you give yourself 5 or 10 minutes in your day, preferably in the morning, preferably first thing, but no, we're not making rules about this here, because that's just going to make everything all tight. But is there something you can do for 5 or 10 minutes in your morning that really helps you connect with your essence? I mean, that might be meditating for a few minutes. That might be doing yoga. It might be doing 2 yoga poses. I mean, it doesn't have to be this big, long practice. It might be just taking the time in the shower to really, enjoy your own body wash and all the stuff we have, and smell and experience the things we bring into our lives. Okay, so then the next thing is you might naturally start to think about the things that could be on your menu of things to do for your day. And maybe that's a very set schedule and so forth, but maybe it's not. Maybe you have some ideas of some things that need to happen. And so start to tune in deeply with yourself. Just placing your hand on. So like, what do I really need to do today? Or what's really calling to me today? Aside from the fact that, I have these things that are on my list that I feel like I should do, places I need to be, people that need me to drive them here or there, whatever your situation might be. But what am I feeling called today? What am I feeling called by today? And just take a few moments to journal about those thoughts, those feelings, and those intuitions. Because a lot of times we don't give ourselves the time to tune in. And then when we do get those hits, we get them, and then we're like on to the next thing, and whatever that was it just drops off the edge of the earth. So just take a minute or two just to jot some of those things down. I know for myself, oftentimes when I start to meditate, I start to naturally, I need to call so-and-so, or I need to remember to send this and do such and such, or things like that. So just taking a moment to just jot those things down. By paying attention to your deeper instinct, you start to activate your intuitive wisdom, and it'll start to get louder because you're starting to heed it. And writing down these hits really helps immensely, or else over time, this guidance is just too easy to overlook. It's too easy to discount because there's so many other distractions or inputs coming in from outside. We need to start to take the time to listen to what's inside. So, next step, breathe slowly and deeply. This slows everything down. And sometimes that's the hardest part, honestly. Ask your body wisdom, your inner knowing, your heart, source, whatever you want to call that, God, Mary Magdalene, spirit, divine guidance, whatever, asking how best to respond. Like, what would be the most aligned, I don't want to say appropriate, aligned way to respond to these outer needs and concerns. Because so often we're just on autopilot about how we have to do things, and we miss a lot of the magic that can really show up.
Excuse me.
You are so excused. Jot down your thoughts, feelings, perceptions, questions, and answers. You may not get the reactive answer or action you might normally. And that might be easy, that might be cool, that might be hard. These messages will get clearer or stronger as you attend to them, and they'll dry up if you continue to ignore them. All skills refine when they get practiced, and your feminine guidance is among them. So then just finally, just take a moment just to thank yourself and to thank the guidance that has come to you, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you heard anything or not. It's not necessarily about, it's not always about angels flying down and, tooting in our ears, but, when that happens, great, but, it doesn't always happen. So just giving thanks for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I find, I like to have a morning ritual where I allow myself this space to be me for a couple hours before I start my day in the office. And I think that has been my personal success point, is to, yes, I have the gym or my walks or whatever, but I also have my meditation. I also have my mindset, my focus, my embracing me, my
That's right.
luscious bath stuff. And I love that you said that, because
Exactly.
inside I'm going, yay!
Yeah. Like we surround ourselves with all this beauty and then we don't allow ourselves to enjoy it because we're like, oh, I got to get this thing
Isn't that
done.
crazy? Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy? Or
yeah.
say you buy yourself something, or somebody gifts you something that you're so excited when you see it that you want to use on your body, and yet you put it off to honor it instead of allowing it to honor you.
Right, exactly. It's
Yeah,
some special thing. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah, I think it's true. And I, like you, have adopted that practice too. And I know that lifestyle-wise, that's not necessarily something everyone can do. Although I really encourage it. I learned a while ago that when I don't set an alarm, and I have a few hours in the morning that I really devote to my own self-care, my own meditation, my own practices. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I can get distracted and not do it as well as anybody. I'm not going to lie about that. But I do find that it really makes a big difference. And I've set up my practice similarly, that I'm not at my desk at 9 a.m. I'm at all, because and I think it's important because it sets the stage for the day. Because I'm sure, like you, when we get into the office or get into the workplace, it's to the computer, it's to the email, it's to, texting or whatever, and those are naturally masculine. Let's see, left side, right side, whichever side. It's naturally using those sides of our brains and our being.
Yeah,
So I think it's really important to set ourselves up, set the stage for the day. So
absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's funny because when we teach this to others, some are really resistant because they see it in us, but they can't see it for themselves. And
Oh, of course.
when they do start to practice it, they're like, wow, this is the
Right.
most amazing thing. And it's like, I know, I wanted to share with you one of the biggest gifts I know,
I know, exactly. Or it's like, oh, well, you're special, you can do it, and I could never do that. And it's like we have to really start to unwrap ourselves from that victim or martyr programming
Yeah,
and going, I don't want to say or think that I'm or you are that much more special than anyone. I mean, of course you're special, but like this is available to everybody. I mean, that might mean having to get up earlier, which might mean having to go to
exactly.
bed earlier, but there's ways to start to
Exactly.
do that. It might be about putting a sign on the door that says, do not disturb, this is mommy time, or whatever it might be. I mean, I remember a woman telling me years ago that at a certain time in her life, 100% of her yoga practice took place in the bathroom because that was the only place she could have privacy. It was either in the shower or, standing in the bathroom.
Hmm.
And I just thought that was brilliant. It's like, you take it where you can get it. So we have to give to ourselves. And, 10 minutes isn't a lot of time, but if that's too much, you start with 5. And if that's too much, you start with 3 breaths. We
Yeah,
start with wherever we're at. So,
exactly.
yeah.
And I'm glad you shared that story about the mommy in the bathroom doing her yoga, because it's really amazing, and I have to always take my hats off to moms. I'm a mom, but my kids are older. So
Right.
when I
Yeah.
started this career, I started it out of, I don't know, necessity, because I needed to start working. And I loved this, but I took the big girl
Hmm.
steps and said,
Yeah.
I'd left my husband started my own life. And I still drove my kids, to school and participated with, everything that a mom does. But it really is more difficult. What I do now,
Sure.
I
Oh, yeah.
couldn't do as a mom because, sometimes, unfortunately, and I always promote, take, a smaller work week for yourself and do as much in there. But with the magazine and my coaching, sometimes I'm at my desk 60 hours a week. And
Yeah.
of course that goes into the weekends instead of, but there are
Right.
some days that I'm 14, 15, 16 hours at my desk. Of course I get
Right.
up in between every hour and stretch and walk and all that stuff.
One
But
would hope.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But so for you mommies out there, that your kids, you're going through exactly what Claire was saying, where the kids are like, Mom, just
Yeah.
discover what blesses you in that aspect of your moments, because
Right.
we so honor and cherish you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it is starting to unwrap the programming that we have to always be there, always immediately available. And some of that is biological and some of it's culturally
Hmm.
imposed. And I'm not saying it all to be neglectful, of course. I mean, that's
Right.
ridiculous. But we have to put ourselves on our own to-do list is another way I like to think of it. It's like we have to put ourselves into our own schedule, our own creativity practices, our own self-care, our own spiritual practices, or else guess what? Everybody else is going to fill it up. I mean, because nature abhors a vacuum. It's going to be filled up. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. So I just wanted to review so that we could start to, close here. So what we covered today is that we received cultural programming that's negated the feminine and elevated the masculine. Well, it's worked for us in a lot of ways. I mean, we've become very successful and affluent as a result of that. It's also made us really sick and tired, literally. And we've lost touch with our own divine being, our feminine soul. Not 100%, but I mean, to some degree, some people, it might be close to 100%. Although they're probably maybe not sitting here watching this now, but you never know. we can hope. And that loss of our feminine soul or our divine feminine connection is really creating havoc in our own lives and in our larger world. Because I think it does really, this isn't about self-indulgent navel-gazing. It's like when we're really taking care of ourselves, and we're taking better care of our families. We've all heard this. Then you're taking better care of your community and your world, or you feel more empowered to speak up about that thing that's always bugged you, that always happens at such and such, or at your workplace or in your school PTA group or your board that you're on or whatever it might be. Then we feel more empowered to do something about these things. But if we don't, then we don't believe in ourselves and we don't care for our own needs. So there are simple processes that you can do to awaken feminine soul and connect to your own divine guidance so you can live a life that's true and aligned with the core of who you really are. And there are practices that we can use to do that, and we've talked about a few of those, and we worked through one a little bit that you can go back and spend more time with. And that practice is really one that can help you activate and awaken your feminine side, and your divine connection. Because that's the thing I hear most from women is they feel connection to their feminine soul, but they don't know how to stay connected. They don't know how to bring it into their workplace. They don't know how to live from that place of being. And like I said, it's really a balancing act, but we have to learn how to bring both teeters into the totter, Mm-hmm. So that's what I have for you today.
That's awesome. Thank you, honey.
Yeah.
A lot of wonderful tips and tools to bring that balance in. It's lovely. Thank you.
Good.
And you have a free gift for us. Would you like to share it?
I do. Let me just look at my notes. So when I was thinking about this, I wanted, since I knew I was going to be reading some pieces from Magdalene Path, I wanted to share a juicy chapter excerpt. It's actually the whole chapter. I think it's chapter 6 from the book. It's called Embodying Feminine Essence. And in this juicy chapter, you'll learn a key outcome of self-love, which is your beauty power, how to activate your beauty power, and how to turn up your light from within, and how to access your authentic beauty from inside out. You'll also learn some core skills to love and honor your body with cycle awareness, and then embody bliss with the simple body prayer practice. There's great downloads from Mary Magdalene strewn in there too. And this guidance from the Magdalene Path really offers new ideas and ways to empower and embody your core feminine essence. There's meditations and practices that really support you so that you can flourish in this busy, complicated modern life. So I believe there's a link so that people can fill out the form, and then we'll give you access to that chapter.
Awesome.
And later this month, I'm also going to be doing a teleseminar, and it's going to lead to a class, I believe. It's just all getting put together now, to activate your own feminine soul and access your own divine guidance. So I just wanted to mention that as a little sneak preview of what's coming up. So
that's awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah, because I really want to support women to get and stay connected to their feminine soul. I know how hard that can be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you've given us so much, but what would you like to send us out with? What message?
Oh, wow. There's a lot I could say, but I won't. Trust me, I won't. There was a piece that I wanted to read to you. This is I think a really sweet piece from Mary Magdalene about what happens when we connect with our own feminine soul. A woman with a reclaimed divine inner feminine has a sense of herself as whole and holy. She's held by God and knows that since she's part of and connected to Source, she's sacred. As a result, she's not willing to abuse or abandon herself in any of the myriad ways that women do. And then as I was receiving that, I thought, wow. And so this is what I was thinking. I wrote, we can care without caretaking. We can love without codependency. We can relax without numbing. We can relate without giving ourselves away. I thought you really grew on this part.
Yeah.
So, and Magdalene says, this is why it's such deep and important work. Women are now ready to reveal their true divinity to themselves in the world. I mean, I get this sense sometimes, like, it is way more than we realize, like, way more than we realize. And I teach this stuff, and I think sometimes I think I don't really get it. And the world needs all the self-expressed, inspired, confident, love-blazed women ready to live as a force to be reckoned with. Not out of anger or aggression, but as a fierce, vibrant force of love with a strong breeze, like a strong breeze at the end of a long, hot summer day. The world needs this wind of change and the cleansing force it implies. Be ready. The wind is coming your way. Trust your voice, your skills, your inspiration, and your intuition. They are not off, and it is time.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
Very, very beautiful. Thank you, Claire, for joining us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure. Good fun. Yay.
Good
Thanks
fun.
so much for having me. Yeah.
Certainly. And thank you all. And we will see you in another segment of Love Revolution. Bye.